What's up, everyone? We're coming at you live. This is Mastra Live. I'm Shane.
I'm Abby.
And today we got a whole bunch of things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk a little bit about some tweets of mention, so maybe some AI news. We'll bring some other people, at least one other person, maybe two from the Mastra team to chat a bit. And then we are going to build something. So we're actually going to try to build a new feature into Mastra Framework, and you can just code alongside us or tell us what we're doing wrong if you are in the chat. So
Yeah. There's some cool things that happened over the weekend that are not really AI related, but more this live stream related thing. So on Friday, we threw this event at YCHQ. It's called the Future of Dev Tools, alongside Supabase and Starsling. Starsling is a Spring Batch, YC Batch company. It was really cool. There was like demos and like just talking about dev tools. There was pizza. We talked about that on Friday. There would be pizza. We ordered the pizza. It's pretty good. But at YC, there's this energy drink that's sponsored by Greptile. And so I hit up Greptile over the weekend. I was like, I'm done pumping Celsius. I need those Greptile energy drinks. And so happy to say that we will have Greptile as our first sponsor, where they're just going to hook us up with energy drinks and we'll just pump the stock on those. Yeah. So I'm happy about that.
Free sugar and caffeine. What can go wrong?
Nothing. Especially if you drink 5 of them in a day, nothing's going to go wrong.
Nothing can go wrong. It has to be good for your health, right?
Yeah.
But maybe there was a tweet that we thought sounded like someone on our team. I wonder if we could share that tweet and then.
Yeah, let me share that now. Let me screen share. And here we go. Y'all can see my screen. This is a tweet from Dan. He's pretty funny on Twitter. But he said the software developer levels: junior, mid, senior staff, principal, and then farmer, which we thought this is definitely a dude on our team. So let's bring him out. Hey, Ward, are you there?
I'm here.
All right. Well, Ward, you were a principal at Gatsby and Netlify and other places, and yes, you're also a farmer. So tell us.
Yeah. So I have I have a couple of animals in the backyard, like 3 goats, which I'll show in a second, and a horse. So starting my farm year by year, I guess. So yeah, not much to say, but basically it's a hobby that went haywire.
So Mastra, founding engineer and farmer.
Yes, exactly.
It's so funny that there they are.
This is the smallest one.
What's his or her name?
This is Juliette.
Juliette. All right.
And then we have José. And then we have the big guy, which is still a small goat, but it's like that.
Oh, dude, he's getting feisty.
Yeah, he always.
He's getting feisty.
People tune in for the coding and stay for the farming.
Yeah. Now we have the horse.
Ward, where's the horse at?
He's eating at his stable. Just a sec.
I love what you've done with the place.
the goats, they destroy everything. Then here we have.
Whoa. That was a big boy.
Yeah. He'll come out in a sec, just eating.
So Ward, while you're tending your farm, what is it that you're working on at Mastra when you're not farming, of course?
Well, I am the open source lead, so I'm trying to do as much as open source as I can, making sure that the community gets taken care of. But of course, I'm not the only one taking care of everyone. But currently, I'm working on getting workflow streaming in a good position. So basically, streaming workflows, like all the steps, everything that's happening. Because with like the vNext workflows that we're building. So big shout out to Tony, which did like a lot of work there. We just want to make sure that streaming is taken care of as well. We're probably gonna use like Vercel's AI SDK data stream protocol and just extend it to our own.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Ward, so all three of us have been friends for a long time now. Like, tell us like what got you into, I guess, software engineering. How'd you end up here?
Well, a long story, but basically I started like as a web developer, and then at a newspaper company in Belgium, and then there was like a vacant, like a job position for Gatsby at open source, and I thought like let's try it because I was working on Lighthouse for Google, like the performance tool. And I was like, okay, let's try if I can work for an American company for real. And then yeah, I did the interviews, got hired, and I think that's where our journey started. So I first met you, Abi, and then I think a year later or something, Shane came into the picture, and then Gatsby got like acquired by Netlify. We all stuck together, and then basically I left Netlify first, I think, and then we all left eventually. And I guess here we are now. So
Here we are.
Here we are. All circles led back to the beginning. Back to
Yeah.
basically what's the best, right? Like building open source and making a good cloud that people can use and trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We call you the Bundle Ruski, Ward. Could you let the audience know what does that even mean? Because maybe you don't even know, but at this point, we've said it so many times, you definitely know.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at like bundling tools. So basically, getting a JavaScript file and making it something completely different. So all the tools like Vite, Webpack, Rollup, all those things, I'm pretty good with them. Same thing with like Babel, like AST transformations. So that's basically why they call me the bundler Ruski, because I know so much about that. But it's also a long story. Basically, I've been using Webpack for, I guess, 10 years or something, or even longer, because we're getting old. And I just like to understand a lot of things. So basically, when I'm stuck with something, I try to spend lots and lots of hours in getting to know how those things actually work. And Webpack was one of the tools I put years and years in, and eventually became like really good at it. And it has been serving me for many years, getting me jobs like at Mastra and stuff. So can't complain about all the tears I shed when
Dude,
using.
the funny thing
Yeah.
is, when we hired Ward, we didn't know that the Bundle Ruski was needed. And then we hit this like point where we had to start bundling JavaScript, we were like, thank God that Ward is here. How the fuck did we know that we would need to do this? I don't know.
Dude, how many times, Avi, did you and I say, what the fuck would we be doing if Ward was not here right now?
Yeah, if Ward wasn't here, dude, we would be completely fucked. Swear jar, I understand.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. Swear, not family friendly sometimes, here, yeah. Swear jar.
Yeah.
But it comes to so many places, right? Like even packaging a module today takes so much effort. Like you need to support CommonJS, ESM, and it's just not that easy anymore, right? Like before you were just creating a JavaScript file and here you are. And now it's like, oh, I have TypeScript, I have to compile it. And then, oh, you are using ESM. Great. Oh, you're using CommonJS. Oh, and then you have your tsconfig, which has like 50 configurations. And if you don't use the right one, it breaks. So,
yeah.
Well, Yassine has a comment. So he's not the only one. Yassine says, I have 4 sheeps in my garden.
nice.
So also, Yassine has a question, what happened in Netlify? We're still really good friends with a lot of people over at Netlify. We actually on Friday, we were just, I don't know, we could pull up that picture, but we have a picture with Abby, Sam, myself, and Matt, the CEO of Netlify. See if you can pull that up, Abby, while we,
I'll pull it up.
yeah, while I
up.
stall. But Matt's agreed he's going to come onto this live stream at some point. We just got to find the right time to get him on. So, yeah, it's just one of those things where you eventually are ready to build. There it is. Yeah. So yeah, eventually to try to build something new, and so we spent some time in Netlify, and then it was time to try the next thing.
Yeah, it's just when you get acquired, it might just not be the same company as you were because you get acquired, and then if it's not for you, then at least that was the thing for me. Like Netlify, great company, but was just not the same thing as it was as Gatsby was for me. So
yeah.
And now we're building our own company.
Yeah, we're running the playbook over, a little bit differently this time though, but with some of the same friends.
Yeah, most of the same friends.
That's the best part, right? Like you can enjoy your work and spend time with your friends.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, Ward.
Yeah, thanks.
We'll let you go do your chores.
Yeah, I have some poo to shovel.
Well, I'll be there next week and I'll come help you out.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Yeah. Next week, Abby will do it live with you, and we'll get that.
Yeah, dude, that's actually, I will do it. Let's do that. That'd be fun.
Yeah, that's it.
All right. Thanks, Ward.
See you, Ward.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
All right, dude. What's next? What should we cover
There's another
next?
tweet that came. There's a bunch of tweets that came out over the weekend. So I'll share another one, which is relevant to everyone using Mastra and I guess in the space as well. But we got AI SDK 5 preview, which is dope. So if y'all don't know, if you're using AI SDK right now, it's in like the V4. And there's be a lot of big changes that are happening in V5. They're relevant if you're using AI SDK. We use AI SDK under the hood for our model routing. So this impacts us quite a bit. But it's pretty good. Like the work. So there's two things I'll like just note here, which are really good. Like the message format is changing. It's becoming a little bit more ergonomic. You can put metadata in messages. So like a lot of people before were kind of constricted by the message format. Now you can kind of just make it happen. So you can build rich user experiences off the message data. The second big thing, which is not in this tweet, but the data stream protocol, which is how all this streaming stuff happens with AI SDK, is getting a nice little advancement. As before, the protocol was like defined by types that were like numbers. So like type 0, for example, means text, and type 7, I'm just saying some shit, but it means like data. And now it'll be like type step start, type tool call. And that means you can make a way more structured UIs from streaming. So this is pretty cool, and we're going to support it in Mastra. So that's dope.
Yeah, very cool. Another thing that's kind of related that maybe I'll try to pull up as well is, last week we had a workshop with the Copilot Kit team, and they just launched their protocol today. And see if I can find the actual tweet here and share it. Still, there it is. And so, AGUI was just launched by Copilot Kit. We were, wanted to have day 0 support essentially. So we've been working with their team. We did a whole workshop webinar on it last week. But, one of the things we've been hearing over and over is that it's really hard to build the front end and connect that to an agent in the back end, right? Whether that's a workflow, whether that's actually an agent, whether it's a whole network of agents. And so if your user doesn't know what's happening in the front end, it kind of breaks down the whole experience, right? And so Copilot Kit's doing some really cool things. Obviously, you can see even with what we showed last with the next version of AI SDK, they're trying to improve it as well. I think that's the next frontier, is really how do we make front end and back-end AI applications work seamlessly together. And so a lot of work being done on definitely on all these fronts.
Yeah, there's like some good questions we received on like why use, for example, why use AGUI UI libraries versus React AI SDK React, or Assistant UI, or any number of UIs. I think it's a good indication that that is kind of like this next frontier forming, that there are different players trying to enter the space and then build something useful, right? AI SDK React is kind of like this primitive based set of tools that come together in the AI chat SDK, which is like kind of like a full assistant with like the full application. Then you have like AGUI and its CP like Copilot Kit stuff, which is similar deal but more abstractions around agentic behaviors like human in the loop or generative UI, etc. Yeah. So it's like, what do you want to like? What toolbox do you want to use, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. One question. Someone said, "I will pronounce the name." Very thoughtful name. Can you see the chat here? Yes, we can. So if you're on YouTube, if you're on LinkedIn, if you're on X, drop us a message. We will see it. We can pull it up like this.
Yep. We
Yes.
just discovered that.
Yes,
like
we can
week.
see the chat here, and we can we can answer questions along the way. I was funny enough. I was actually having a conversation with a customer today using Mastra, and they basically asked a bunch of questions of things we're working on, but haven't fully documented or released yet. One of those things was client-side tool calling, which again, with things like AGUI with Copilot Kit start to become easier to do. Both the human in the loop and the ability to actually call tools, not on the server side where the agent's running, but actually call something in the browser on the client. I think in their case, I won't share too much of what they're building, but it's kind of like an AI-powered video editor where they need the agent to be able to call tools to actually change what happens on the client in the browser.
Yeah. And client tools don't mean just the browser. Like you could do a client tool is any tool that is executed away from, where you're requesting it, right? So like, let's say I'm on my own backend and I make a request to Mastra or to anything, and I specified client tools, which means the AI agent will stop what it's doing when it hits that tool and respond to the user saying, "Hey, I stopped because you need to call this tool that you told me about." Once you call the tool, could be anywhere, right? I could be the browser, I could be in another server. I call the tool and then I send the message back saying, "Okay, I handled the tool, keep going." So this whole process, it exists, but like obviously, I think all these frameworks are trying to abstract it and to make it easier.
Yeah, I mean, it was just kind of hard to do, right? I mean, I can't.
Yeah, dude.
The examples I was building 6 months ago, it was very difficult. You had to very manual to wire up the front end to get really interactive experiences. Yeah, I don't think it's solved yet, but you can tell that we're getting closer. It's getting much easier.
Yeah, for sure. What should we do next?
Well, I mean, I think we have one other person that might want to join, and
yeah, let's let him in.
The Sultan of Support himself. I'm trying to think of what goes with RAG. The royalty of RAG. I don't know, something with RAG. RAG. Well, we will workshop it. But
yeah,
Nik,
the Sultan of Support.
the Sultan of Support.
We're just trying alliteration around here.
We don't have a lot of good ideas. We just reuse the same things.
What's up, Nik?
What is up, Nik?
Huh? Hey guys,
Sultan of Support is here.
Yeah, basically, for background, Nik has been, last week alone probably answered, I don't know, hundreds of Discord messages. Not because he has to, because he's just a helpful dude and helping out everyone in the community. So, very appreciative to have you, Nik. But yeah, maybe a quick little background. Give me the few sentences on yourself and what you do at Mastra.
Yeah, sounds good. Oh wait, first you guys can hear me, right? I just want to make sure my audio.
Yeah, we're good.
We can hear you.
Sound good.
I always have audio issues. Yeah, so I'm Nik. I'm a founding engineer at Mastra. I basically primarily specialize in storage, RAG. I've been working on memory. As for me, I actually was. I think a lot of our team used to be ex Netlify, so I got that under my belt too. Um, and basically, I think we all got poached just by Shane and
No,
Bobby.
poaching is illegal in Africa.
No, no
We
poaching.
got scouted.
You came to us.
I don't know, dude. You just showed up on our doorstep one day.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, and there's maybe some, you probably had family conversations because you and Abby are brothers
Oh,
and
yeah.
all. So I'm sure that
Oh, yeah, we
contributed.
forgot to mention that.
I forgot to mention that. Yeah.
So, yeah, we got big bro and little bro in one live stream. But yeah, what do you do? What are some of the things you work on at Mastra, Nik?
I'm basically right now I'm in charge of a lot of the we're doing our RAG features. A lot of it is like our vector databases. We have a lot of vector support. We support over I believe by now it's over 10 vector databases. So I've been helping review PRs that come in for those, and also implementing a bunch on my own, and then making sure that they're all basically as seamless as possible with our Mastra infrastructure.
Yeah,
And
the wrangler of RAG. That's the
Wrangler
alliteration.
of RAG.
That's the alliteration we're looking for.
So, Nik, a lot of users come to Mastra and they are trying to build some knowledge base and stuff. What do you think is the common pitfalls for people trying to do RAG?
Right now, I think if it's not it's basically, I think, setting up and making sure that they're properly formatting their data, getting that to the DB, and then just knowing how to properly query it. I think a lot of it is knowledge and just first time learning how to do it. And because it is kind of as a concept, it's hard for someone to get in there and really know what they want to do until they start researching it. I think we provide a lot of tools that make it easier, but it's still very you have to know what you want out of RAG before you can properly implement it and get it working for your use case.
So I guess Shane, we should ask the big question that we always ask. Let's see how Nik does it. You go for it.
Wait,
Okay.
Nik, is RAG dead?
RAG is not dead. I think it still
RAG
has.
is not dead. All right,
hot takes here. RAG is still alive and well.
So why do you think that?
I think.
And one thing, the thing that we always get asked is, with the larger context windows, especially things like Gemini, right? Gemini and Gemini Flash, huge context windows. Why do you still need RAG? What are some of the use cases, and why is it so important?
I think it's especially important for memory, even with large context windows. I think it's another tool in your belt that lets you properly utilize memory, also utilize external DBs, rather than having everything in the context window. Especially for certain use cases where, I think if you hit token limits, or you don't want to rely on just a context window, you want to be able to support multiple models rather than just use Gemini or something like that. I think having the ability to swap out models and still have the same kind of functionality, I think that's useful.
Yeah.
I think that would be the main thing.
Yeah, I was talking to someone at actually the event on Friday, and they were saying that they used RAG with a vector DB provider, and actually their latency was less when they just shoved a whole bunch of, because it could all fit in the context window what they needed. It was big, but it could fit in Gemini Flash. And they said their latency was actually less, their accuracy was higher, and I think for some cases that's probably true. But I do think, and maybe it's because I think RAG is harder, right? You have to think, there are things you have to think about. You have to think about chunking, embedding models. You have to think about, how you retrieve it, how you re-rank. There's so many things you have to piece together to get it right. And you have to kind of measure it and determine if it's right. Where the easy solution is just use the big context window if you can, and it's probably going to be pretty good. And you got there really fast. And so I think that's why this debate always keeps coming up. I do think, I'm on the same, as much as I'll say the hot take and say RAG is dead. I don't think RAG is dead, but I do think that it's becoming a little more niche because you don't need it quite as often as you used to. You used to have to pull it off the shelf right away, where now you don't always have to do it, or you can wait longer And when you do, you're gonna have to spend quite a bit of time to actually get the accuracy to be what you need it to be. At least that's been the experience that I've seen.
Also, I think RAG gets a bad name because people think retrieval means you have to use a vector store, but like you could retrieve shit from anywhere if you really wanted to. So I don't know. The latency thing is interesting because the minute you add database calls, like of course you're going to have more latency. Like you're going one call to Gemini versus one call to fetch your embeddings, right? Or to create them. Then one call to the model, one call for re-ranking potentially. So obviously there's going to be more latency, like 100%, but maybe that's the trade-off that you make.
Yeah, I think it's definitely the trade-off. And plus, I mean, yeah, RAG is definitely a lot more set up, definitely a lot more, I guess, more pitfalls that are present. But I think if you're able to properly set it up, it just gives you just another tool. It gives you just more flexibility, I think, rather than just relying on only context windows.
So the answer is it depends.
Yeah, it depends.
Yeah, classic.
The answer everyone wants to hear, of course, is well, it just depends.
Yeah,
I mean, you gotta keep the people doing consulting in business. Like it does depend. It is, and it's actually true. It does depend.
Yeah. Plus, there are RAG companies now that do RAG for people. I'll name a few if anyone's listening. We have 94 people here. Hello, thanks for being here. I'll name a few. You can use raggy.ai. I'll put them in the chat. So we got raggy.ai if you want professional RAG stuff. There's also some other homies that do RAG. Graphlit, they have an MCP server for it. Check them out. Who else does RAG? We met some dude in the new YC batch. Their company's called Chonky.
Yeah,
they do RAG. So it's not dead.
Yeah, and of course you can roll it yourself too. We're doing the hackathon, which we haven't talked about yet, but we will. We are doing the hackathon right now, and MongoDB is a sponsor. You need a vector database. You got to store it. I mean, there's a lot of good vector databases out there, but definitely can't go wrong with Mongo for sure. Yeah, Mastra.build. If we have a hackathon going on right now, the Mastra build hackathon. Come build agents. It's not too late. It's all week long. Tons of prizes. You can check out the previous live stream we did earlier today, kind of announcing what all the prizes were for that. But go to Mastra.build if you're interested in building some stuff with us. Come build with us on Discord.
And with that, Nick, thanks for being here.
Yeah,
thanks
later.
Yeah, see you, Nick.
Peace.
See you guys.
All right, then there was just us.
Then there were two. Should we build some shit?
Let's build some shit, dude. I've been itching. Gotta get all that the news out of the way, so I'm ready to go. All right, I'll take over screen share.
And for those of you just joining us, thanks for tuning in. We chatted about some AI news, met some people on the team. We are now going to try to build something. So we're going to try to build something that we've been wanting to build into the Mastra framework for a long time. And I don't know how far we're going to get today, but we're going to do some exploration. And then, of course, we'll keep working on it offline. And hopefully you all will see the results at some point in the somewhat near future.
Nice. Do you see my screen?
I can see your screen. I'm just trying to figure out how we can best position it. There we go. So we can see it well. And I'm going to do the same thing I ask you to do every time you share your screen.
Yep. I got it. Except
sick. All right.
Now we see the RAG page. Okay, cool. Sorry,
and if you're listening, if you're one of the 100 plus people listening to this, if you do have questions along the way, we'll try to stop and answer questions as we go within reason until we struggle and get frustrated, and then we'll stop paying attention to chat. But on YouTube, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, just find us and send us a message.
Cool. Yeah, and I can't see the chat, so just let me know.
Yeah, I will keep it. I'll keep on top of it.
Cool. So what we're building today, a lot of our customers or users or homies are asking us, like, how do you...
Got him.
Got him. We're gonna look into adding guardrails. A lot of people want guardrails on their agent calls. So first, we got to understand what guardrails is, because let's just assume that we don't know anything, which we don't, right? We don't know anything, so let's figure it out. So to do so, I know that there are other agent protocols that do guardrails, specifically OpenAI agent framework or agent SDK. So we can go learn from them, or like see what they're doing and then form an opinion. Let's go look at what other people are doing, and then we can see what our users are wanting. So first, let's just pull up OpenAI agents SDK. I'm just curious, like, how they think about guardrails, you know? All right, so let's just... Also, I'm kind of learning here too, so, you know, we can learn together.
Yeah.
And I'll read out loud, like as if we were in freaking class or something.
Yeah, well,
But-
you know, we always say, you know, we're like builders doing AI, right? So that's how we've always framed it since we really dug into this. You know, it's been a while. We've been doing this for a while now, but we're still figuring this stuff out, just like you all are. Things are changing quickly, so try
And
to
like
stand.
guardrails as a name doesn't make sense to me. I mean, it kind of makes sense, but I guess maybe let's go figure out why they named it that way. Because all right, we'll figure that out. Also, this word tripwire, in my opinion, is a terrible name as well. But it's hard to name things, so you gotta give people some like slack. Because a tripwire, I guess I could theorize what it is. I guess we'll find out. So, what are guardrails? Guardrails run in parallel to your agent, which is interesting. The parallel part is interesting. It's like, you know, because it observes stuff. We'll keep going. Enabling you to do checks and validations of user input. For example, imagine you have an agent that uses a very smart and hence slow, expensive model to help with customer requests. You wouldn't want malicious users to ask the model to help them with their math homework. So you can run a guardrail with a fast, cheap model. If the guardrail detects malicious usage, it can immediately raise an error, which stops the expensive model from running and saves you time and money. There are two kinds of guardrails, input and output, for sure. I'm gonna stop here. The parallel piece of this is interesting. Maybe that's because you don't want to add like any latency to your call if it is like good, right? If you're running a guardrail on every request, it could get expensive if you have to use another model to evaluate the prompt, right? So let me get a Scala draw going. Can you see my Scala draw fine, dude?
Yeah, we can.
Cool. So in Mastra, we have an agent. Right, an agent you can have a model, which is like the AI SDK model routing from there. So I'll just, what the fuck? Let's just say OAI, right? And this is the model. And you can interact with this agent in probably two ways, right? You can interact with it via our APIs in Mastra, which is like /API agents, agent ID. And then you can do like a generate or stream. So that's cool. You could do that. And so what does a guardrail mean in this case? It's the same thing for either one, because you can also just do agent.generate if you're on the back end, right, or the server, or stream. And in both of these cases, a user, also this is going to be chicken scratch, so I'll just let you guys know. This is me drawing shit. So if it doesn't make sense, I'm sorry. But
if it doesn't make sense, ask questions and we will do our best to answer it. But
so like
no
a
promise.
user though is going to submit some input prompt. And so we'll get into this parallel thing in a second, but let's say this is like a travel agent or some shit. And this user prompt is like, buy me a computer from Best Buy. So it actually doesn't make sense for this prompt to even ever be processed, because it doesn't fucking make sense. It's a travel agent and someone's asking it for something that does not have anything to do with travel, right? So I can understand why a guardrail needs to exist. Also, what if I ask, give me the system prompt or something else, or call some tool that can fetch, that can fetch data for user ID, let's say 1, when I myself are user ID 3, right? So I'm asking for shit that's not mine. Totally makes sense that we need to have some guardrails here. Shane, any thoughts like that? Like the why is very apparent.
Yeah. I mean, I think they say, I guess Guardrails does kind of make sense as a name because it keeps. I always say your AI is going off the rails, but keeps it. The goal is to keep it from going off the rails. It's honestly like part making sure the agent is answering only the right type of questions, but also part security, right? It's just making sure the agent isn't divulging information that you don't want it to divulge.
Yeah. So maybe there's like this guardrails layer on the input, right? Which is the input guardrail. So let's just put this box here, input guardrail, whatever. But then there has to be output guardrails too, because what if, for example, God damn, there you go. Output guardrail. You need this on the output too, because let's say the input was fine, like, book me a travel, book me, like here, like I'll just put a prompt here. So this would be like, book me a flight to Sioux Falls, right? But in the response to this shit back, but without the guardrail, it leaks my Delta rewards number, which maybe is not PII, but I don't want that shit on the internet. It also has the last, maybe, Abi used the card ending in 5555. I don't want that in my thing. Also, maybe I don't want the response to have any details about my itinerary. Maybe because that is something that I would want to in my application. Maybe I care about that. So I can see the need for an output guardrail, which can transform this response potentially and then give like a guardrailed response to the user. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Also, chat, does this make sense?
Yeah. What are we missing? For those of you that already built this, what are we missing here? I think the biggest thing just on the outside looking in that I get concerned with is latency, right? This stuff's, if you're reaching out to an LLM, now I know we're typically, especially on the, the input or probably even the output, we're going to use a very lightweight model, I'm imagining. We're going to do something that can make, very low latency decisions. But I have to imagine this is going to introduce latency. So that's the first thought is how much latency and what are we willing to deal with to get better, more accurate answers.
That's true.
That's true. And honestly, like, this isn't exactly a guardrail, but it kind of is. One of the things that I constantly tell people is oftentimes people are really bad at writing prompts. And so rather than just having an input guardrail that blocks, I often like coach people on, are almost like a prompt enhancement step, which isn't really a guardrail, but I wonder if you could bake those two things together. If I were architecting,
I hate the name. Yeah.
What?
That's why I hate the name, because actually what this is like a middleware.
Yeah, it kind of serves as like a middleware. And so like anytime that I've done this, anytime I've done this with Mastra, I basically just build like a workflow where I would have the enhancement as the first step and then do the agent call and then maybe have some kind of, multi-step where it's calling multiple agents, where it's like a lightweight agent at the beginning to rewrite the prompt. Then you have the real agent doing the work, and then maybe a lightweight agent making, like, just verifying that you did it right, or like giving that yourself the option to like tweak it or change it.
Yep. Also, I want to shout out a homie who also said this same conclusion. Can you see my Discord?
Yeah.
Let's see. Functor, where are you at, brother? I'm going to look for you because you had this brilliant idea already. There it is.
Yeah.
I really think the agent abstraction would benefit from some kind of middleware. Agent middleware, that could be, you can bootstrap messages. That makes sense. You could, I don't know what this means, but we could figure it out. And this, guardrails. Heuristic-based tool calling is interesting too, but definitely you can do guardrails there and some other shit. So, functorism, thank you. Shout out. Okay, so we're kind of aligning on the possibilities here. Let's keep reading about OpenAI and see what they do. Also, we should compare and contrast with some other tools too. But okay, so input guardrails run in 3 steps. First, the guardrail receives the same input passed to the agent. So once again, this is running in parallel. So let's actually maybe recreate this diagram real quick. Because I believe in this OpenAI world, you have like a guardrail agent, let's say. Call it the GLA. So maybe these are they both are receiving, they're like a unit.
Yeah. Can you give me like 1 or 2 more clicks? There you go.
Sorry about that. And then these are like a pair now, and so the input goes to both of them. And then they're going to start executing them. So, okay, that makes sense to me. Next, the guardrail function runs to produce a guardrail function output, which is then wrapped in an input guardrail result. What the fuck does that mean? What does that mean? Okay. I guess I have to look into this real quick. What is this shit? The output of a guardrail function. Okay. Okay, yeah. All right. This is just output. Okay, it's just a type. All right, my bad. I'm just dumb. But it's then wrapped in an input guardrail result, which is the output from the input guardrail. I hate this name, dude, but okay. That's fine. So finally, we check if the tripwire triggered. Say that 3 times fast. Tripwire triggered. I can't even do it. Is true. If true, this exception is raised. Oh my god! Try to say this 3 times fast. And you can appropriately respond to the user or handle the exception. Okay. So, what happens if it throws, though? You have to cancel the request that's happening. What if this agent finishes before this thing can complete like the assessment? You know what I mean? That's
so, well, I wonder if it. Yeah, I mean, I could see you like triggering them both in parallel and then waiting until they both finish to respond.
then respond. Seems like, yeah, that's true.
Because then you could run them both in parallel, which would lower the latency. And then if it, assuming that ideally the guardrail would be a lighter weight model, which would go faster, so it should be done before.
Yeah. This is like a GPT 4.0 or something.
Like a mini. It's like a 4.0 mini or
4.0
something.
mini.
Or Gemini.
But then it assumes that this thing is like a, GPT 4.5 or some shit.
Yeah, or I mean, ideally, even if it was the same, right? You could just, assuming it wasn't drastically, the guardrail wasn't drastically more. You just wait until, but you trigger them in parallel.
Like the assumption is that the prompt checking or the input checking is just a lightweight thing to do compared to what you're sending. But then in the case of enhancement, you don't want to run this in parallel. So I feel like maybe we should do something that's both parallel and blocking. You know what I mean? You have the option in the API that we create. You can run this guardrail or whatever, and it has to complete before you start the operation, which is a choice. Or you could do it in parallel, where if it raises an exception, then you don't return the results, or you cancel the request.
Yeah,
you have to abort the stream.
So, I know we should get these guys on there. Where are they at? I know there's a YC company called Casco, and they have like a low latency guardrails like API, but they'll intercept. I think it's a Get Casco or something. Casco.com. I don't know.
Casco.
Yeah.
Here you go.
But again,
shout out to these guys.
Yeah. So you guys should come on and tell us all about this. Where are you at? Someone find them and tell them we're talking about them.
Yeah, but I have to book a demo to know.
Yeah.
That's whack.
But anyways, I think the idea is that they'll like overwrite the message and just say like, this message has been blocked. Or have you ever seen like if you ever try to get OpenAI's image gen to generate some trademarked image, it'll get like part of the way, and then it'll eventually flag it and say this was flagged for
Yes.
copyright or
So
something.
you stop the operation and then you return.
Yeah, so like once it hits, you stop and return some kind of security or canned message around what the exception was, right?
Yeah. So maybe like this middleware can, because we need the option to, let's just write this shit down. We need the option to run Guardrail in parallel.
And there's some chat.
What up?
Johan says the per message context retrieval is probably that for every message you do, a RAG is to give the LLM some extra context that could be relevant to the message.
Yeah, dude, beautiful
Correct.
comment there. Thank you.
Correct.
That's really good.
For
Hell
every
yeah.
new message, a new RAG is done, and the relevant score is checked to the previous one. If more relevant, we inject this one instead.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Is
mean, I
that
can see.
Are you the OP or are you just a dude? Original poster? Or just a guy? Or just a person? Because then, thank you for that. Because you added on to Functorism's idea.
Yeah.
So I would call that enhancement, right? Input enhancement. Because I don't want to make an opinion on what you can do in this function, right? You should be able to do whatever the fuck you want. Whether that's RAG or whatever. I hate the word enhancers, dude, because we use that a lot in the Redux days of JavaScript. Enhancers, and they're so whack. So we can't use that. I refuse. But guardrail is not the right word for enhancement. So let's leave that there. Hey, chat, think about it for us while we keep reading.
Yeah, is there a better name than guardrail? I mean,
Also, tripwire is whack. I'm just going to write that down too. Tripwire is whack. And if anyone disagrees, that's okay, but I think it's whack as a name. All right. Let's look at this note here. Input guardrails are intended to run on user input, so an agent's guardrail only run if the agent is the first agent. So it's talking about this in an agent network or a like swarm type of situation. So in this case, the guardrail only exists on the input message going in. But I don't agree with that because we're not going to do it that way. If you put the middleware on your agent or whatever, we're calling this middleware right now. If you put this on the agent, regardless, if you're in an agent network, I'll just draw a freaking network real quick. So for example, this box now is in this network. There's no reason why we can't apply all these same enhancement, whatever, middlewares, as agents are inputting to each other, right? So in an agent network, you have like a router agent. So I'll just put that dude on the board. This is like the routing agent. It's the one doing all this kind of like, quarterback action. So the guardrails or these middleware would still exist in these calls from the routing agent. So I don't think that I don't think this shit matters, or it shouldn't, right? If it's the first or whatever. Would you think so? Maybe in OpenAI that they put guardrails on like the whole run. Oh wait, no, they don't. Why is a property on the agent instead of passed to runner.run? It's because guardrails tend to be related to the actual agent. Yeah, duh. You'd run different guardrails for different agents, so collating the code is useful. If this is true, then why does it only run on the first agent? Maybe it's just a nuance.
yeah, I mean, I could see. Yeah, I don't know. I could see why you might want to have guardrails for different agents, but yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't just allow each agent in the network to be able to have their own guardrails, so you could independently isolate and check the output. But maybe just for latency reasons, you want it on just the initial. But I don't know. Seems arbitrary to me.
Yeah, if you want guardrails, then you can't be. I mean, maybe you still can be latency sensitive, but you have to measure that. So that's gonna be tough.
Yeah,
But
well,
maybe
I mean,
that's just a caveat.
Yeah, well, I think it's just kind of like if you're doing like input guardrails, you could keep it pretty much low or no latency, right? Because
Yeah.
you can run it in parallel along when you send it to the agent, and then ideally it would be almost no latency or very very little.
Yeah.
But if you're doing output guardrails, you definitely have some latency. So my dog's barking, causing your dog to bark. Roxy.
Shh, Roxy, shush. Sorry about that.
You know what I mean? Like output guardrails would have to have latency.
Sorry.
Yeah. We dog to dog communication happening here. So I think that's the challenge for me is I think, but ultimately you as a user should be able to decide that, knowing that input latency isn't as bad. You can maybe just choose to make sure they're not asking to do something malicious and block the response if they are, but give you the option to do a post output guardrail, knowing that that's going to increase latency, but maybe for some, especially like security type things, you want to maybe verify that even if the user didn't ask for something, that the agent didn't do something unexpected that would cause the agent to, I guess, go off the rails, right? And so while we wait for Abby to get back, Johan, not just another dude, not just another dude to me. Thanks for dropping in the comments. And for those of you just joining, we got quite a few people watching now that weren't watching 10 minutes ago. We're trying to build guardrails, or at least talking about how we would build guardrails into Mastra. The idea being that we want to be able to make it easy for users to protect their agents, whether that's ensuring that the user prompt that's getting inserted isn't trying to do something that we don't support, and also making sure that when that prompt is then taken by an LLM and created into a response, that we are either sanitizing that response or making sure that response doesn't go off the rails and lead the user down maybe a not good path or leak specific information that it shouldn't be. And you are muted still, Abby, I believe.
Oh, sorry, my dog went crazy, so I just had to.
Yeah, no worries.
Had to regulate, dude. I had to regulate.
Yeah, we do it live around here.
Yeah. Okay, so that was input. Let's talk output. Also, how much time do we have?
Yeah, I don't know. 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I don't know.
Fuck. All right, we'll keep learning this session.
Yeah. This is learning with Mastra this week, and then next time we'll have to start building.
Yeah. All right. So output guardrails run in 3 steps. Same input passed to the agent. Okay. All right. This doesn't make sense. The first guardrail receives the same input passed to the agent, even though output guardrails are intended to run on the final agent output. So an agent's guardrails are only if it's the last agent. Okay, so this is the same note from this one where it's like the beginning and ending of a call, but once again, you could probably do it for each call depending on latency or whatever, right? Or maybe our views of agents are different than these guys.
Yeah, this makes it seem like the guardrail is getting the same input that was passed to the agent, and then it produces the guardrail output, which then is wrapped in a result, and then it triggers potentially this quote-unquote tripwire.
Yeah. So these are just functions then. Which I guess we kind of learned about input output then. They're all the same except where they run and what the input actually is. I also do not think this is the same input passed to the agent. It's like the output, right? Well, I guess the output of the last agent, let's say. Okay, sure. We don't know what we're doing. We'll figure it out. Tripwires, terrible name. If the input or output fails the guardrail can signal this with a tripwire. As soon as we see a guardrail that has triggered the tripwire, damn, are they like really trying to make people like fuck up reading this? We immediately raise I'm not going to read that, exception and halt the agent execution. Okay, this is dope. We want to do something like that. All right, let's see how we implement this. So map homework output. It has an agent that checks if the user is asking you to do their math homework. Okay. And then that's just going to return with that. Pydantic is a really sick library for those in the Python space. I mean, we aren't, but major respect to Pydantic. And then let's see.
And a framework. They have a framework too, and
Yeah,
logging.
Pydantic AI. Is that what it
AI,
is?
yeah.
Yeah, they're dope.
Hear a lot of good things.
Yeah. Input guardrail. Love Python, dude. I love Python so much, dude.
You and I are not the same.
I love it, dude. Look how beautiful this shit looks like. Damn, like I know, like, don't you just know exactly what this thing does? All right. So you run the guardrail agent on the input, then you have the result.final output, which is this. If it's math, okay, cool. This input guardrail. This makes sense to me, like how this works, sure. But what doesn't make sense is the output right now. So let me look at this. So this is the output guardrail. It runs it on the output.response. I called it, dude. They need to change their docs. This is wrong. Hey, if you're watching this, OpenAI, fix your docs, yo. Because it is the output of the agent that you're actually guardrailing. I'm like, how does this shit work, actually? What are they doing? Oh, it's this. Check if the output includes any math. I mean, this is a dumb guardrail, but I get it. For sure. For sure. And then you have an output guardrail. I guess if it doesn't have anything, it'll like slip.
So, I mean, ultimately, they're just allowing you to pass in functions, either as input or output guardrails to your agent. And then behind the scenes, they're just running them either in parallel if it's input or on the output response. So ultimately, it's just these are just like helpers, so you don't have to think about adding an extra step and handling that.
Hey, chat. Like, we looked at OpenAI, who has good knowledge. Anyone else have any other people?
Yeah, any other prior art that we should consider as we're thinking about this? Yeah, if you know of any framework that does a really good job implementing guardrails or whatever the framework wants to call it, definitely let us know. We are looking for.
Does Agno have it? I don't know.
I don't know. Let's do some digging. Do a little research.
I can also ask Claude.
Yeah, let's ask Claude. See what Claude says.
What was I asking him last time? How to use GCP like an idiot? Oh man, we're like doing SOC 2 right now, so I'm like, how do you actually use GCP? How do I? Okay, hold on. Claude, come on, bruh. Come on, bruh. Oh no.
Yeah, and I will. I'm gonna have O3 do a little research project for us while we sit here, and I will report the results.
Do these schools have guardrails? Maybe they don't call it that. I feel like everyone should just call things the same thing, you know? Dude, I say that as I'm about to change
the name as you're like hating the name and trying to think of a better name. Yeah.
Oh, dude, we're changing.
Yeah, you should talk, dude.
All right, I don't know if these guys have it. Maybe they do on agents. I don't see it specifically. What about lane chain? Do they have it? Guardrails output parser. One of many. Oh, look at that. Maybe this doesn't exist in the new version. Okay.
I will not say anything about docs. But come on.
This must be probably the wrong thing to do. Probably the wrong people to look at, honestly.
I'm letting O3 do some
Oh
research.
yeah, Aparna. She's from
maybe. So I see here maybe instructor with pedantic.
Oh, so we're we can get some instructor pedantic.
Yeah, I mean, let's.
Oh yeah, we met with this dude,
Yeah,
but I think the JavaScript version, I believe. Maybe it's
Yeah,
the same thing, but oops, I spelled that wrong. Am I tripping, or is this the wrong library? API reference. Okay. Is it like built in, chat? Is that what you were saying, or is there an actual like primitive for it?
try pedantic AI. There's another
Uh-huh.
suggestion. Just let's look at pedantic AI and see.
The homies.
I know this exists. This concept exists in other places. We're not, it's not just OpenAI. Maybe it's called something
Maybe,
else.
yeah, because maybe Guardrails isn't the freaking name for it. What if I search here? Is there Guardrails? Dude, they must not call it Guardrails, right? Like, we're tripping. Okay, let's see.
Okay, so here's what O3 has for me.
Ooh, you want to share?
Yeah. So we'll see if it's any good. Where is it? I don't know why I can't. Okay, well, see if that works. All right. So OpenAI calls it Guardrails. So Bedrock has Guardrails,
Okay.
which
True.
I'm guessing it just works on any model that you can use with Bedrock. So Crew AI has Task Guardrails. Okay. LangChain, this was the old. It looks
That's what
like
we saw, yeah.
yeah, we saw, so maybe that. Llama Index, same name,
Same shit.
basically.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
Yeah, AutoGen and NVIDIA. I don't really care.
Okay,
So-
so Crew, I guess we can take a look at.
Yeah, we can take a look at Crew maybe. Common design patterns.
Parallel execution. Task. Okay, I'll take over screen share real quick.
Yeah,
Or,
let's do it.
yeah, let me take over screen share. Let's just look at Crew. Task. Wait, where the hell? Task guardrails. That's to add a guardrail to a task. What's a task though? Oh, okay. It's like an agent run.
Yeah, I'm pretty
So-
sure in Crew you can have you can basically send a task, right, to your
Mhm.
crew.
Yeah, I like this task thing. We're gonna do something similar where you can like create tasks. It probably won't be called a task though, but
Well, didn't you just say shouldn't everyone name things the same to make it easy?
well, if everyone's naming things guardrails, then I guess we already threw it out there. Then what's it that tune? It's like there's 12 competing opinions. We should like standardize it. Now there's
Yeah,
13.
There's 13 competing names. Yeah, it's like
Nah,
there
we'll call
are
it
4
task,
names
I
for this. We should just pick one. Okay, now there's 5. Exactly. Unfortunately, this is the challenge of naming.
naming shit. Okay, LLM guardrail. Ooh, they make a nice little class
Well,
for it.
Who are we kidding? We're not going to name it anyways. We'll just come up with a fake name and then ask Sam to name it, and he'll name it for us.
Exactly. Sam will name it.
Sam will name it. And just because Sam is he's very good at naming things, comparatively. I'm not saying we get everything perfect, but he's
I suck at naming things.
he has a little more naming
Dude,
taste. Than
I would have
Avi.
come up with the name guardrails, you know? So okay, so this looks pretty chill. Like it has a validator, which is essentially what we're trying to do too. Pass a validation type function, but where does it run? Okay, man, Python is so beautiful, dude. Did I ever tell you that? It's like gorgeous, dude. So legible. Validate. This is cool. Yeah.
I
You
don't
can
know if you're being
format it
honest.
too.
I don't know if you're being honest or you're exaggerating.
I think you should know by now where I stand on this.
Well, I know. I know.
Okay,
Chat.
so theirs is actually running essentially. Well, I don't know if it's parallel or not. I can't really, but it definitely can mask things and format them. Here you can see there's an output formatter, format output. So is it just on outputs or inputs? Validation. Transform task outputs before they are passed to the next task. So that's our output middleware essentially that we want to do. Validate and transform in one function. Okay, that's kind of cool. Error sent back to the agent. The agent attempts to fix the issue until the guardrail returns true. Oh, that's pretty interesting. I don't know how it would fix the issue. Maybe like modifies what the task is, the task details. Kind of don't like this actually because it seems very not deterministic.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if it's like if it took the response that had the credit card number or whatever, and it stripped it out and tried to fix it, and then it would.
Oh yeah, like
then it would basically like sanitize the result and then pass it through.
Yeah. Actually, that's a good point. That's a good point. These maximum retries and stuff.
Well, let's call it sanitizers.
Sanitizers.
Another bad name. Output sanitizer or something. I don't know. Terrible name.
No.
We're not doing that.
Kickoff. Okay, yeah, this makes sense. So I think we're all kind of coalescing on the same idea of. Okay, to kind of how many people, or should we do like a summary of what we?
Yeah. For people just joining, we got a lot of new people joined. We are trying to figure out how do we build, or what's the right form for building guardrails into Mastra, the open source framework. Basically trying to figure out how do we ensure that if someone has an input prompt that's asking for something they shouldn't, we can clean it up or block it. If the LLM generates some kind of result we don't want it to send back to the user, how do we block that result so it never gets to the user? And different frameworks have different ways of doing it. Some don't have it at all. Some have different names for it. But we're trying to figure out what do guardrails mean for Mastra, and we're not going to implement it today obviously, but we're doing some research and we're trying to figure out what would the API maybe look like, and how would we build something that people can then use and get reasonable results from. Yeah.
So I think we kind of distilled it down, and maybe this is too general. We could start here, but if we had something called agent middleware.
Yeah, I'm only looking at your Crew AI screen.
My bad, dude. Let me share this tab instead. Great. So if we have agent middleware that has a input function, and then here's some maybes. We need some like options for parallel, or blocking, right? And then you also need to be able to throw I'm gonna quote this as an exception because there's no, that's just what you have to do, but maybe it's a special error that you have to throw. And then you also have the option to return, so you receive input and you could modify input. Or you can just call next or whatever based on like, maybe you don't want to do anything for this given one. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, I mean, thinking through this, would we, do we want just that function to handle call out to any LLM call agent it wants, or does it, do we want it to pass in the model and the prompt into the input function? Like how, ultimately, because there could be a lot of things you do, right? You might want to write some algorithmic code that's just like, look for these specific words. Like, here's a list of swear words. Don't let the one of those words escape. I mean, so I could see
what kind of things can you run?
Yeah, because you might want like a LLM as a judge. I mean, honestly, this is very similar to evals, right? It's just like rather than like hallucinations or whatever, you just like rather than just doing the eval and giving a score, you're actually letting the model decide if it should go through. But otherwise, it's pretty close. And
So
so
you have like a prompt evaluator via code or LLM.
yeah, so I mean, whatever we do, we should try to make it feel, we should try to make it feel ergonomic with what we're doing with evals. Because
Dude, technically, in a guardrail, if it's a function, you could send it to a human, and they could be like, "Sure," you know.
yeah, I mean,
Ooh, the music.
that means we've been vibing for a while. If the music cuts out,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, you could send it. I mean, I don't know, maybe in a long. I don't know how that's different than just like other human in the loop type activities, but yeah, you could. In theory,
Technically,
right?
yeah. I wouldn't. Probably no one would do that because it could take way too much time to get a response from a human. But I mean, that just shows you could do whatever you want in this function, right? To then throw this exception, and we don't necessarily. We shouldn't have an opinion on what you want to do. We'll have examples of how to do some stuff, but I think that's truly what this thing is doing. Chat, would you agree? I can't see the chat, so I don't know.
Only thing we got was interesting, which I
I
agree.
don't know if that's a good
Thanks.
thing.
Hopefully it's a good thing. Seems like a good thing.
I can't see how output would ever be parallel, right? It just blocks the return.
I think it would have to, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Chad, if you're listening, and we're going off the rails. If we're the agents going off the rails here, be our guardrails. Help us out. Yeah, I think it would need to be blocking, and because you are wanting to intercept the response. So the only true way would be latency, intensive, of course. But you want to, if security is a major concern, you may want to block it.
Yeah, and this actually could be a certain type of eval as well. So this would be an output eval via LLM if you want, or you can use natural NLP libraries and whatever. But then we could also bring Mastra eval, like the eval kind of tools, into this world, that we already have.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. I feel like there's a way to connect these two in an ergonomic way.
Correct.
So it just feels like evals, and whether you're doing evals or whether you're doing guardrails, it feels cohesive. I don't know exactly what it is, but
Well, the guardrail itself is just some fucking function that they called guardrail. So for us, I don't know, we'll call it something, but it's an input function because you can also return a formatted output. Right? So that's here, or you can just do next on it. Like, go on with your life. Pretty sick, dude. If we had this, pretty cool.
yeah.
And the fact that we need to revive evals a bit to make it work nicely is good because now we get two birds.
Yeah.
Two birds.
Yeah, we've already been working on it, so it's just additional reason.
Motivate.
Yeah, additional reason to make sure we do it.
This would be cool then, because then you can do guardrails and you can do like transformation. And then you put it on your agent. Would you want to call these? I mean, actually, my next question will take us off the rails, so I need guardrails too. Because I was gonna talk about tools and tool middleware and shit, but that's another discussion.
Yeah, and Jay says OpenAI SDK can do both input and output interceptions. Yes, if you joined late, we were looking at some of the OpenAI documentation for inspiration. So, yes.
Yep. We looked at True. We looked at a bunch of different ones.
Yeah. Ultimately, just trying to figure out for those that have joined, how should guardrails work in Mastra? Well, what do we think? What can we learn from others that are doing it? How do we make it work with the other things the other primitives that are part of the framework? And how do they tie into potentially like evals, because they are somewhat similar, somewhat related.
Yeah. I wonder if more so people want to transform things. Like, would people use this more to enhance inputs on the way into their model, right? With input enhancement.
Yeah, it's like an enhancer versus. So, I mean, can you just would it be an enhancer that you can throw if it's so you can basically completely block, or you can just change. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then
the parallel execution is interesting too. Like what's like the right API for that? We'll have to.
Yeah, because it's parallel. It's not really an enhancer at that point. That is just strictly
straight up guardrail action.
Yeah, or as OpenAI would call it, that's like a tripwire, right? It's just like flags that something needs to stop execution.
Yeah. Lots to think about. Any thoughts from the chat?
Yeah, I mean, as we get kind of close to wrapping up here, this was we were hoping to write some code today, but we turned into a research project.
That's still pretty fun.
Yeah,
I
learned a lot. Hopefully those of you that tuned in, you learned some stuff as well, and you can see how we make decisions around here. We just figure it out.
Yeah, we just
do the same thing you would do. Do some research, try to figure it out, see what makes sense, talk it out, and next time we'll hopefully start building.
Yeah, and this is good because we kind of learned that guardrails aren't enough. If we only implemented guardrails, then the next question would be, I want to do some other shit. It needs to probably be a little bit more like fully baked on like what you can do with this. But it's cool.
Yeah. So I got another question. Let's take a quick detour as we start to wrap up. That was fun. Can you talk about the hackathon? Yes, we are doing a Mastra hackathon right now. If you haven't seen it, go to mastra.build. I'm just gonna pull it up. Pull up the site. Yeah. Share the tab. Let's share. So, yes, we are again doing a hackathon. Go here to this site, sign up. It just started today, so you are not too late. It's all week long. It's meant to be, kind of come as you are. You build something cool. Every submission gets prizes. There's a whole bunch of raffle prizes. So if you submit something, you have a chance to win some cool stuff. So there's a live stream we did earlier. It's on our YouTube channel. If you do want to see what the prizes are, who the sponsors are, figure out how you can actually participate. But you can drop your email in there and just come to our Discord. There's a Mastra-build channel in Discord, and that's the best place to go if you're building something. If you need help, if you have questions around the rules, anything like that, please go to our Discord. If you're looking for a link to our Discord, best place to go is just go to our website. It's in the footer, or our docs. It's in the header. Join our Discord and ask questions there. And with that, what do you think? Should we wrap up?
That was a good stream. We'll be back tomorrow. So
and reach out to us. Let us know what you want to see on these. We're trying to do these more often. We bring on people from Mastra to talk about the stuff that they're working on. We bring on guests. So we have a couple guests coming on later this week just to talk about things they're building with AI. Ideally we want this to be educational, but also fun. So if you have things that you want to learn more about that you think Abhi and I should talk about and maybe teach or figure out on our own, as you saw today, we're learning alongside all of you. Let us know, and we'll try to incorporate a lot of that stuff in.
Cool. Well, thanks everyone. We're the Admirals of AI, by the way.
Yeah. We are not in the Palace of the Dog today.
Nope. We're traveling, so we'll still keep doing the live stream.
Yeah. We are all the Admirals of AI, trying to figure this thing out. So good to see you all, and we will see you next time.
Yep.